It is Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. I am Michael Winkler, and this is the Mike Wink Show. So we're going to start off today's session a little differently than the prior first few sessions. I'm going to watch a 15-minute video and pause and commentate on it as we go, because it's from a channel that I semi-regularly watch, the Hank Green, and I also watch the Green Brothers channel, the Hank Green and his brother John Green. They make pretty good content. I don't like religiously watch them. I don't watch all their stuff. I'd say once a week I might watch one of their videos. I saw this video come across my feed just yesterday, and it's titled "Doge Just Ended Nuclear in America." Now, I tried to look up some articles really briefly, kind of expecting there to be some sort of like Doge cut to nuclear energy or whatever that this is directly referring to, but I couldn't find any articles. No articles jumped out at me immediately. And so I'm just going to watch this and just see how it is and just give my raw thoughts on this. And then we'll move on to some actual articles.
I made a video a little while back about how I thought that nuclear power was going to be coming back in a big way, and it still is, just definitely not in America. I don't know. Actually, maybe they'll realize the gigantic mistake they have just made and they will undo it, but there's this thing called the Loan Programs Office. It's basically a government bank that is used to fund things that the government would like to see happen in America that otherwise would not happen because banks are just too conservative. Now, this is a wild thing to say. The government is less conservative than banks, but yeah, banks will basically only fund stuff that they've seen work before. So say, for example, you're like a young guy who made a bunch of money with his like tech startup in the payments space, and you want to build a car company. And so you found this car company and you invested in it and you started to help build it with the founders, and now you need to like build a big factory. Normal commercial bank is going to do that because you have no track record of building car factories, and no one has a track record of building electric car factories. And so enter the Loan Programs Office. They would give you
The Loan Programs Office.
that loan and allow you to build your big factory. And that is exactly what happened to Tesla, and that loan was instrumental in the existence of Tesla today. This is a good thing. Everyone likes it.
I had no idea that what was it called again? Oh my God, I already forgot. Jesus
To
Christ.
do that because you have no track record of building car factories, and you're the Loan Programs Office.
Loan Programs Office.
And no, this is a good thing. And that loan was
I had no idea that the loan programs that he used the Loan Programs Office to build his initial factories. I didn't know that.
instrumental in the existence of Tesla today. This is a good thing. Everyone likes it. Now, at the same time, there was also this case that no one can shut up about of Solyndra, which was like a solar power company that went belly up. That resulted in $500 million of lost money, which is a lot. But this is
The Loan Programs Office. Is this basically using the U.S. Treasury as a bank and allowing us to build slightly riskier, large-scale projects that might not be doable or really feasible on private alone?
is the thing about loans. You charge interest so that you can make money even if some of them fail. The Loan Programs Office has existed for a long time, mostly behind the scenes, not catching a lot of flack or a lot of attention, though Biden's Inflation Reduction Act dramatically increased the amount of money that it had to deploy. But it has a loan loss
Interesting, I didn't know that.
rate of around 2 or 3%, which is better than commercial banks. But it has a loan loss rate of around 2 or 3%, which is better
Wait, what does he
to
say?
deploy. But it has a loan loss rate of around
It has a loan loss rate
2 or 3%.
of around 2 or 3%. Is that the amount of dollars? So is for every $100 we put into this program, $2 or $3 are lost? So it's an investment? Or is he saying that of all of the if you take 100 programs that you're funding through this, 1, 2, or 3 of them won't pan out? And is he trying? I don't know which of the two that he's trying to say here.
Better than commercial banks. So the loans that end up not coming back.
Better than commercial banks. Loans that
It's better than commercial banks, even though the loans that they are making are riskier, theoretically, because otherwise they just get normal commercial loans. It's specifically designed to help fund first-of-a-kind projects, which is exactly what you want to do. Because those are exactly the things that the market isn't taking care of. And having there be some large bank like thing that is able to give large loans for people who are credible and who have ideas that could like carry not just the United States, but humanity forward substantially and more rapidly than otherwise would happen is so good. The Loan Programs Office is like, I think, one of the smartest things that we have.
All right, I'm going to do a little bit more research into the loan programs office. I'm going to do some more research into that after this video, later in this session.
Other countries have them too. China's is gigantic, and ours is focused a lot on alternatives to current energy stuff, which makes sense because there's a lot of opportunity in that space right now, and like we can't innovate that much more in coal and oil and gas. We all, I thought,
yeah, that makes sense.
We're on the same page that like that's not the future. Eventually we're going to run out of those things anyway. And so because it's often focused on alternative energy stuff, it's sometimes called a green bank, usually by people who are like more center or center left. And it's like, this is how we're going to help incentivize through markets the transition to a different set of energy production systems, which has resulted in the people on the right calling it a green slush fund, where it's just
okay. So it sounds like it's definitely not used exclusively for investing in renewables, but it seems like it makes sense. Look at the times, it's 2025. It makes sense that they're going to be investing more in renewables now than they would in maybe 1970.
Just like they're taking your money and they're giving it away, but there's not even like the money gets paid back. Like Solyndra was $500 million of loss. The Loan Programs Office makes more than that in interest payments every year. Like it makes money. It's a bank. It's a bank run by the government, and it makes money.
Interesting. Yeah, if he's right about this, and I assume he is, he's a smart guy, he probably wouldn't be saying this if it wasn't true. That means that, yeah, it is a good investment. And yeah, he's 100% right.
And it's not as efficient as it could be. I don't know.
This ties back to the just like, if you think of it in the terms of a bank and it performs really well in terms of a bank, what is the problem with the government running it? Like anybody against this would have to be against it on a blind principle of government bad, small government better, big government bad, whatever they're defining that as, and they're just defining that as the government doing stuff.
Why you don't even want this to exist. It's like a fundamental cornerstone of industrial policy. If you want industrial policy, you need a government bank office like this who could take risks. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, the Loan Programs Office was authorized to loan out $500 billion about. It's loaned out so far around 10% of that. And now what has happened is Doge has come in and they've said to all of these bankers who are not hard to employ. These are not people who are wanting for career opportunities. They've said to all these people, look, you can quit now and we'll keep paying you for 6 months or something like that, or later on we'll fire you and you'll get no severance. And so a lot of these people are taking that opportunity, and right now it looks like the Loan Programs Office has lost about half of its staff because Doge came in and said, we don't want you to be in this work anymore. When like a lot of other, I think, pieces of the Trump administration see the Loan Programs Office as a huge potential asset that they would like to deploy. But now no one's around to administer the loans that they've already given out, let alone figure out how to give out new ones.
I don't want to give them any. What's the Death Grip song? Giving bad people good ideas. I don't want to give bad people good ideas here, but like how this insane missed opportunity for them to not utilize this fund. Oh my God, it's already been approved. All the funding has been allocated. You could they could use it for all the worst kind of money grab cynical bullshit. Damn, it's a good thing that they haven't noticed this, or at least haven't noticed it yet. Hopefully they don't see this video. Oh, are you looking? JD. Is that JD?
These are not people who needed a job. They are people who wanted to work in something that was more interesting and more meaningful. They could make more elsewhere. The only bank in America that is financing nuclear power projects right now, that goes both for existing technology nuclear and potential like first of a kind kinds of nuclear stuff, is the Loan Programs Office. It's the only one doing it. Way too risky for commercial banks. They are not.
This seems entirely consistent with everything I've learned about funding and getting nuclear off the ground. This is consistent with everything energy and the hurdles that are there in that are the hurdles that are in place to us fleshing out a good nuclear energy grid.
Not interested in it. There's too much regulatory weirdness. It's been too long since we've built a nuclear power plant. There's too much weirdness in the energy sector generally, with like the cost of both batteries and solar panels dropping so quickly. For the units that went online in Georgia recently, the LPO financed $12 billion, which is going to be paid back because we successfully built them and now it is generating electricity that people are paying for. They have a commitment.
Wait, sorry, I got
It's been too
distracted.
long since we've built a nuclear power plant. There's too much weirdness in the energy sector generally, with like the cost of both batteries and solar panels dropping so quickly. For the units that went online in Georgia recently, the LPO financed $12 billion, which is going to be paid back because we successfully built them and now it is generating electricity that people are paying for. They have a commitment of over $1 billion for a plant in Michigan to refurbish and turn back on a nuclear reactor there. And the LPO is backing companies that are doing small modular reactors, which is this area of nuclear power that people are excited about, where it's like, instead of trying to build a custom nuclear power plant every time, you instead have like a single plan that you just exercise over and over again, and they're smaller, so you can have like 3 of them on site or just 1 of.
How do they not already have this? Wait, do they not already have this? I assumed that they have standardized. I'm sure, like on the internals. Maybe he's talking about macro scale, right? Because like internally, I'm sure the design and functionality of each reactor is pretty similar, if not exactly the same. So maybe maybe he's talking about all the window dressing that goes around the reactor. Because like I cannot imagine that they're not reinventing the wheel every single time, right? Like I'd like to know more information about this. I'm generally surprised that this isn't already how they do it.
Of them or 20 of them or whatever. There's X Energy and TerraPower and Oklo, and they are all financed by the LPO. And of course, they do a ton of other stuff. They do solar stuff, they do wind stuff, they do geothermal stuff that I think could potentially like be like actually what we do instead of fission and instead of fusion. I think that it's potential. I think that that's absolutely possible, and like the reason why we are able to investigate it right now, because banks will not finance it because it is too new, is the Loan Programs Office. It also is helping to finance conversion of automobile industry stuff in various ways to modernize car manufacturing, do more battery and EV stuff. It's like the most obvious bipartisan good thing, you know? Like China's version of this, we don't understand well because they don't have to be transparent about what they do, but it's probably at least 4 or 5 times bigger than what the US is spending. And I think there's like a bunch of little ones, like each province has the ability to do industrial policy on its own, and so they're all spending loans and we have no idea what their loan loss rate is because that might look bad. Like we gotta do it the American way, but it's so crazy that like Solyndra became this big debacle when it wasn't even an issue. There were so many loans that all the money came back with interest and it paid that back, and all those companies now are like in the world doing good things, pushing society forward. I mean, the fact that that was turned into some kind of attack on the Loan Programs Office, and like why even? What don't you like? It's a program that works, that's administered well, and like they're trying to give away half a trillion.
Hank. They are not interested. I'm sure you know this, but they're not interested in making government run efficiently, running well, or preserving systems that work well, or creating systems that work well. They are interested in destruction and chaos, and that is absolutely it. And I'm not saying this as like someone with Trump derangement syndrome or somebody who's like just not paying attention. This is like they are fully bought into this idea that government doing stuff is bad, just inherently, straight up, flat out, without further question or debate. I have just talked politics with so many of these people. This is part of the Republican ethos at this point. It's almost as if old Republican Party and libertarian ideology and the Libertarian Party have sort of like, they're slowly getting closer and closer together. And we've finally reached the point over the last maybe 5 to 10 years where they're starting to Venn diagram over each other. And eventually I wonder eventually they might just become completely one to one. But there is amount of overlap now that did not exist before. And I think that is what this administration is really focused on, is just just dismantling the administrative state, just dismantling our government's ability to do anything on principle because they don't believe in the government doing things. This isn't about containing good systems or creating good systems or anything like that.
$1 billion, they had 200 employees. So like each person is responsible for over $2 billion and you want them to do it more efficiently than that? I'm not saying it couldn't be more efficient, but I am saying that per dollar of loans, both going out and the dollars coming back in, that's way more efficient than any commercial bank has ever been. Now there are reasons why it could be more efficient. There's reasons why it can be better. There's reasons why it can be riskier. And there's reasons why it pushes society forward much faster than commercial banking. It's just so dumb. It's so dumb. And I don't think even people in the Trump administration wanted it to happen. I think that Doge just has like carte blanche to go in and do stuff because they want to and they feel like it. And like, where can we mess around? And it's extra kind of disgusting because the LPO gave Elon Musk this big ass loan to build.
That's true. Oh my God. Yeah, he's connecting all the dots, bro. That's the classic climb up the ladder and then kick the ladder out from under you so nobody else can climb up. Like, yeah, 100%. And like, I don't think if you looked at Elon like 5 or 10 years ago, like, if you asked him about all of this or listen to him talk, I don't think he would do this. I think he would probably see this as hypocritical and stupid. So like, he's lost his goddamn marbles.
First big factory. It's textbook. I got in and I'm gonna close the door behind me. I find it fucking gross. And it's hurting all of us. It's not good for anyone. It's 100 fucking bankers. On the scale of the entire federal government, I'm sorry, I think that should be 10 times higher. They have such a good track record. We have so much going for us in this country. And petty, boring, ideologically driven bullshit like this is what stands in our way. It's so dumb. So I want to finish.
It is beyond stupid.
Finish this video with an entirely different topic because I'm too mad and we need to take it down a notch. But before we turn those tables a little bit, this video is brought to you by the Awesome Socks Club. You need socks, but then turns these kids into a rock band, and it's very great. And so I'm Googling, and I discover 10 weeks ago, so this movie came out in 2000, rock, because it had Minecraft Steve.
I can't hear. There's a plane overhead. Can't hear my computer speakers. Big loud plane go whoosh.
In it, which we're working through, you know, it is what it is. That hit in a certain way that even it, okay, that maybe they don't make them so cool kids about from this movie. Most of them never blown programs like this to this. And in amongst the like cool this movie, and so I got curious about that. They get all these like tremendous little virtuoso wouldn't be done the same way. He looked past it. As Minecraft Steven. Nothing working through, you know, it is what it is. Of rock. And he's last night to the link in the description. All right, now back to the cool good news. Last night, my son, we want him to watch like more movies that we like, and he's getting that age where we can do more of that. And so we suggested a couple movies, and he wanted to watch School of Rock because it had Minecraft Steve in it, which we're working through. You know, it is what it is. That hit in a certain way that nothing else has ever hit before, but we just kind of moved past it. As Minecraft Steve in it. Okay. So we watched School of Rock with my son. Absolute blast. He loves it. We love it. There's a couple of moments that maybe wouldn't be done the same way now, but like it made me feel like they don't make them like they used to. And also like, how do they get all these like tremendous little virtuoso kids to act in this movie? And so I got curious about that, and I like Googled the kids, and there's all kinds of really cool stories. I can't believe I went from blown programs like this to this. And in amongst
Yeah, what the heck?
Like the kids from this movie, most
I mean, I'll watch the rest of this, but is he really gonna go from the loan program office to uh, Jack Black?
most of them never acted again, or if they did very little. This movie, if you don't know it, is about sort of aging, unsuccessful rocker who takes a
It's really talking about Jack Black in School of Rock.
substitute teaching gig illicitly, and then turns these kids into a rock band, and it's very great. And so I'm Googling, and I discover 10 weeks ago, so this movie came out in 2003, so it's 20 plus years since this movie came out. The girl, who is like one of the singer girls, like with the pigtails, she got married to the security guard boy. Like the big security guard boy and the little pigtail singer girl got married in real life 10 weeks ago. Apparently, like the School of Rock kids have like a group chat, and they've been group chatting for 20 years, and they'd always be like, oh, I'm gonna be in your city. And like these two like eventually like got older, they grew up, they met. He's a lawyer, she does like sonograms for an OBGYN, and they hit it off, I guess, later in life, and now they're married people. That's so cute. That is the cutest meet cute I've ever heard of. Like a little girl and little boy, like they like did an audition together and were in a movie together 20 something years ago, and then as adults they like met back up and they're like, oh, I like you. That's adorable. I'm so happy about that. And so there are lovely things. We do continue to love each other and to build together. And some people really do just suck, especially at understanding the intricacies of industrial policy and the difficulties of doing it well, and the amount to which maybe their entire success is based on the existence of this office that they now want to close down. But some people make really good movies that my son really likes, and then they are kids in a child actor movie, and then they go on to become normal people with normal lives, and then they meet up and they love each other. And so that's, I don't know. I can't really tie that together at all. So let's play connections. Bean gag, trunk muzzle. Muzzle and trunk are, they love each other. And so that's, I don't know. I can't really tie that together at all. So let's play connections. Bean gag, trunk muzzle. Muzzle and trunk are like both the front part of a face. Tail, muzzle and tail.
What is he doing?
Paw, those are all dog parts. May act.
Is this video written for somebody with the attention span of a dog?
Root beer. A bit. Branch. Flag. Fur.
Why is he playing this game?
Tail. Muzzle. Those are dog things. Those are things that
why is this in the video?
So that's good. We've got something to start with. I saw a branch, leaf when I was clicking around there. Trunk. We also got tree parts. You guys, come on, give me.
Does homeboy really just play fucking Connections word game for the next 4 minutes? All right, that's really dumb. Well, he had an interesting. I, for the most part, agreed with all of his commentary regarding the Loan Programs Office, especially with the. It seemed like the crux, the equilibrium point of the premise of his thesis was that Elon Musk is hypocritical and Doge is hypocritical with the way that they're handling the Loan Programs Office, on top of the fact that it's just being really stupid. And I totally agree with his analysis on all that. It makes complete sense to me. And I think making the connection between the Loan Program Office being kneecapped and our ability to actually really flesh out nuclear power in the United States, there is a direct connection there, and that eliminating one will significantly, if not completely, stop the other. Alrighty, let's move on to... So I saw something absolutely crazy earlier today. I was on Reddit, and people were talking about this. And I don't know the details of it, so I'm going to get into it in this article and hopefully learn a bit more. But point I'm just going to get out so I don't forget it. People were talking about how Trump's wanting to use the military for police, basically, and that this is what the Second Amendment was for, right? All those people who claim that they need to have access to a machine gun or any sort of gun restriction is oppressive because they need to be able to revolt against a tyrannical government. They need to be able to resist. Well, hey, here's your fucking opportunity, right? They want to literally start sending the military down your neighborhood street to look and see if your car registration is out or if you're smoking some dope or something. Like this. Where are all the hardcore Second Amendment anti-tyranny people now, huh? Where are they? Oh, wait. They're all giant hypocrites. That's the point. That's why I'm saying all this. Trump's latest order wants to use military for terrifying purpose. Donald Trump wants to turn the military into his personal police force. The president is following through on his threats to transform the American military into domestic watchdogs. Donald Trump signed an executive order Monday titled Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect innocent civilians, effectively tasking Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to work out the kinks in determining how military and national security assets and personnel can most effectively be utilized to hamper crime. This is already grossing me out. The executive order also directed the creation of a legal defense mechanism to further shield law enforcement from potential consequences. Wait, the executive order also directed the creation of a legal defense mechanism to further shield law enforcement from potential consequences, and specifically tasked Bondi with prioritizing holding state and local officials accountable for potential wrongdoing, such as directly and unlawfully prohibiting law enforcement officers from carrying out duties. Oh, this is so bad. Guys, I really don't like ringing the fascism bell too much because, like, the more you use that word, the less significant it becomes, right? It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? If you're crying wolf every time, uh, then nobody's gonna fucking believe you. But, like, this screams fascism to me. He wants to send the military in, and he is literally saying, I'm gonna go after local people, local officials, local government entities that try and protect their citizens from tyranny, trying to protect their constituency. This is like this this screams fascism. I'm trying to think of what's the steel man here, right? I try and steel man the other side. What's the steel man here? I can't The only steel man that would make sense is if there really was some sort of crime epidemic and that the ability for law enforcement to handle that was crippled somehow in some significant way. Either we're unable to hire enough law enforcement officers, people just don't want to be police officers for whatever reason. That's not the case. Maybe the crime is at just such an unoverwhelmingly high rate that they need to do something extra, which it's not. I can't think of any steel man good faith reasoning for this. And so that's when my mind goes towards fascism, goes towards what is happening. This is insanity. It's not the first time. Oh man, I did this. Oh no, I'm still here. It's not the first time that Trump has threatened to turn the U.S. military on American citizens. Before Election Day, he suggested that the National Guard could be tapped to subdue radical left lunatics and individuals that he described as the enemy from within. But Trump has obviously been ruminating on the idea for a while. In September 2020, he warned that he would use force against Democrats if they chose to protest in the streets following his presidential win on Election Day. We'll put them down very quickly if they do that. We have the right to do that. We have the power to do that if we want, Trump said at the time, according to Politico. Look, it's called insurrection, he continued. We just send in and we do it very easy. I mean, it's very easy. I'd rather not do that because, oh God, anytime I read a quote from him, it hurts so bad. Look, it's called insurrection, he continued. We just send in and we do it very easy. I mean, it's very easy. I'd rather not do that because there's no reason for it. But if we had to, we'd do that and put it down within minutes. Ironically, it was his own followers who violently protested the election results. Oh, this is a lot of arrows. So wait. All right. I have another article on this. It was a really short article. Experts fear Trump's What the fuck is this giant ad? Oh my God. Experts fear Trump's legitimately frightening new order to turn U.S. military into police. On Monday, President Donald Trump issued a new executive order just shy of the 100th day of his second term that has some experts and academics sounding the alarm. Trump's new order, which is entitled Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens, makes various declarations about the administration's commitment to supporting law enforcement professionals in the opening paragraphs. However, one section further down specifically mentions the U.S. military and the administration's intent to have enlisted service members participate in civilian law enforcement actions. This is beyond insanity. This is beyond insanity, bro. Just imagine for half a second Hillary Clinton falling for this. Imagine for half a second Hillary Clinton calling for this, or Kamala. They would lose their fucking minds. It would be World War III. Trump's new orders. Blah, blah. Trump's Trump's new order, which is entitled Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens, makes various declarations about the administration's commitment to supporting law enforcement professionals in the opening paragraphs. However, one section further down specifically, already said that. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. Wait, what does this say? Within 90 days of the Attorney General and the heads of the agencies as appropriate shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets. They want to start giving the police tanks, basically. They see it's just this feels like an own the libs sort of thing, right? They see libs complaining about the militarization of police, which is a real legitimate concern from both an optics standpoint and like a practical safety standpoint, and from like a tyranny oppression standpoint. But this feels like they saw that argument and were like, guys, let's give them more tanks. Let's give them rocket launchers. Let's just give them everything. Like, holy shit. And shall blah 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 national security assets blah, blah shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. The Attorney General and one great way to prevent crime is to just shoot everyone you think might possibly be committing crime. Hey, can someone commit a crime if they're dead? Got him. The Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall utilize the Homeland Security Task Forces formed in accordance with Executive Order 14159 of January 2025 to coordinate and advance the objectives of this order. The order continued. That section in particular prompted Lead Matthew No, who is the lead collection and knowledge management librarian at Harvard Medical School, to call the order legitimately frightening. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania-based writer Susan Kaiser posted to Blue Sky, "Serious question, is this martial law?" Former criminal defense investigator Andrew H. Sowers responded to the order by simply declaring, "Not good." We're already a police state, Daily Beast columnist David Rothkopf skeeted, the accepted term for Blue Sky Post. Skeeted? Is that really what they call posts on Blue Sky? They call them skeeted? That's so stupid. Oh my god, that's actually hilarious. But now, thanks to this EO, more so. We're already a police state, but now thanks to this EO, more so. Deploying the U.S. military within American borders to act as a police force would be a direct violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, which is a 143-year-old law prohibiting the president from ordering the military to double as law enforcement. So there's a direct law against this. How are they able to do this? As the Brennan Center for Justice explained in 2021, Congress passed the law during Reconstruction in order to prevent the military from being used to enforce Jim Crow laws in former Confederate states after the Civil War. Makes sense. Additionally, deploying the military to conduct law enforcement activity violates parts of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments of the United States Constitution, which that is very true, which were ratified in direct response to the British military's abuse of colonists prior to the Revolutionary War. They're really... Whoever wrote this article was trying so hard that they put the reason the U.S. Constitution was written, they had to put this last sentence. I'd be embarrassed to put this last sentence, which were ratified in direct response to the British military's abuse of colonists prior to the Revolutionary War. Who doesn't know why the U.S. Constitution is written? Like, if you're reading this article and you don't know how the U.S. Constitution came to be, oh God, we're screwed. Oh, is that the whole article? Okay. Yeah, this seems really... So how are they able to do this if there's a law that directly prohibiting it? I don't know. I don't think the Supreme Court can review executive orders. Supreme Court review executive orders. Yes, there's... Okay, so they can review executive orders. So I would think that I have zero faith in the Supreme Court. They're a bunch of fucking idiots and are They they are dominated by the conservatives, which are a bunch of political actors. Um, but this seems so beyond the pale that I wonder if this is one of those ones where, like, you'll never get Alito or Thomas. They will do literally anything Trump wants them to do, pretty much. But I don't know if you'd get the whole enough of the court on board with this. I'm fascinated to see how this pans out in the next week or so, because I feel like this will become a really big story that a lot of people talk about, and there has to be some there's going to be some there's going to be some hurdles to this, and I wonder how big those hurdles are going to be, and if the Supreme Court executive or judicial review is one of those hurdles, it might be an insurmountable hurdle. I I I think that there is a chance that they stop this. I need to know. I don't know. I sure fucking hope they stop this because this sounds insanity. Imagine getting pulled over by some dude who doesn't have any police training at all, but he was trained in the military. Basically, he was trained how to kill people, but he was not trained how to interpersonally deal with people in complex, non-lethal or deadly situations. Like, oh my god, just imagine, bro. They already falsely treat, not falsely, but dangerously teach law enforcement officers to treat the areas that they're patrolling as like war zones, to treat every citizen, every person you interact with as potentially somebody that's going to like whip a gun out on you at any moment. Just imagine you've got the military going around, a bunch of guys who weren't, at least the police are like partially trained on how to deal with interpersonal stuff and like how to not always use the gun, but like imagine getting pulled over by in a military jeep by a dude who has not been trained in any of those interpersonal aspects of policing, but have only been trained in being a weapon of war, and on top of the fact that they're gonna tell them like, okay guys, treat this as a war zone. Like, bro, this seems like a recipe for disaster. I could see some really, really horrible results from this. Alrighty, let's move on to. So the Canadian elections were yesterday. Mark Carney's Liberals win Canada's election. Here are four takeaways. So the Canadian Prime Minister elections were yesterday. Prime Minister Mark Carney led his Liberal Party to a narrow victory in Canada's pivotal election on Monday, securing a fourth term in power for the party and a renewed mandate to lead the fight against President Trump over trade and the nation's sovereignty. Mr. Carney, a former central banker who was running for office for the first time, struck a combative tone towards the United States during his acceptance speech in the early hours of Tuesday at a Liberal Party event in Ottawa. It was unclear whether the Liberals would win a majority of seats in the next House of Commons, which would allow Mr. Carney to govern relatively unimpeded, or if his government would need to rely on smaller parties to support his legislative agenda. Mr. Carney has not met Mr. Trump in person since becoming Liberal Party leader and Prime Minister last month. He made Mr. Trump's menacing comments about making Canada the 51st state and the tariffs he has imposed on Canadian goods the center of his campaign. The two men held what was described as a professional call before the election through Mr. Carney, though Mr. Carney said during the campaign that Mr. Trump had brought up the 51st state threat during that conversation. Mr. Carney has said that he will maintain Canada's retaliatory tariffs against the United States, but he has cautioned that expanding them would harm Canadians more than they would pressure Americans. Mr. Carney has also pledged to diversify Canada's trading relationships, and he has made a brief but important trip to Europe to underscore that approach last month. In his acceptance speech, Mr. Carney stressed that his priority would be to continue to push back against Mr. Trump. As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country, he said. President Trump is trying to break us so he can own us. That will never happen. He also warned Canadians that confronting the American threat would be difficult and might require sacrifices. The result was close. Mr. Carney's victory was an extraordinary political comeback for the Liberals. Just a few months ago, they trailed the opposition Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre by nearly 30 percentage points, according to opinion polls, and it was widely expected that the Liberals faced a near-death experience. But that was before Mr. Trump began talking about annexing Canada and imposing potentially crippling tariffs on the country. It was also before Justin Trudeau, who many voters had soured on after nearly a decade in office, stepped down as prime minister. Early in the campaign, polls started to suggest that the Conservatives' sizable lead had evaporated and that the Liberals under Mr. Carney might be headed for a decisive win. But during the final week or so of the campaign, the gap between the two parties narrowed as voters' concerns shifted away from Mr. Trump's designs on Canada and back to concerns about the cost of living. While the Conservatives were denied power, the party appeared headed for its biggest share of the popular vote since 1988, and it will most likely win more seats than it did in the previous parliament. The Conservatives made gains, but their leader lost his seat. Mr. Poilievre lost his seat in Ottawa, a stinging defeat for a man who seemed set to become the next prime minister just a few weeks ago. He is a career politician and has held the seat for the past 2 decades since he was 25. Before news of his loss had been confirmed, Mr. Poilievre conceded the general election but vowed to stay on as leader. He framed the Conservative result as the start of a major shift in Canadian politics, highlighting the important gains the party had made under his leadership. Change is needed, but is hard to come by. It takes time, it takes work, Mr. Poilievre told his supporters in Ottawa. But it is not clear whether his party will stick with him. Despite crediting Mr. Poilievre with lifting the Conservatives, there are segments of the party that hold him accountable for failing to successfully pivot after the threat posed by Mr. Trump. Losing his seat weakens his authority, and the Conservative caucus ousted the party's 2 previous leaders after election losses, but analysts expressed belief that he still had a strong grip on the party. Carney will have to make big decisions quickly. After his call with Mr. Trump last month, Mr. Carney said that the U.S. president had agreed to swiftly enter broad talks on security and economic issues with whoever won Monday's election, so a meeting between the two leaders is expected soon. Mr. Carney will also have to quickly make a number of domestic political decisions, starting with forming a cabinet and beginning a parliamentary session. Other experiences awaiting him include being grilled in Parliament for the first time. And Mr. Carney will soon host the leaders of the group of 7 industrialized nations. Mr. Trump and the leaders of Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan, as well as the European Union, are expected to attend the summit to be held in Kananaskis, a mountain resort in Alberta, in mid-June. Okay, so the Liberals won. It looked like he would. Basically, it didn't look like he was going to win for a couple months ago, but then Trump got elected and turned the United States upside down and pissed off Canada. And now they're like, well, we don't want the guy who's closer to him. We want the guy who's going to be stronger against Trump, and that's Carney. I wonder if Mr. Poilievre came out really hard, really even harder than Carney against Trump and what they're doing. He would get enough Canadian support because it said he was up 30 points like 3 months before the election. So I feel like it would only, and if it was close, I feel like something small might be a difference maker. And one of those might be if he was a little harder against Trump, because it seems like that was a big issue for Canadian voters in this election. All right, let's just read this one really quick. It's probably just going to have the same information, but whatever. Canada's Mark Carney and his Liberal Party have claimed a remarkable election victory following a campaign dominated by Donald Trump's trade war and in the aftermath of a deadly car ramming attack in Vancouver. While it is still unclear whether the party will win an outright majority of the 343 seats in the Canadian Parliament, it marks an impressive turnaround given the Conservatives were ahead in the polls by double digits a few months ago. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre even lost his own seat after earlier congratulating Mr. Carney on the Liberals' election win. In his victory speech in Ottawa, Mr. Carney declared that President Trump is trying to break us so America can own us. That will never That will never, ever happen. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons, he said, referring to the American president's threats to Canada's economy and its sovereignty, suggesting it should become the 51st state. Okay, so it's just, yeah, okay, so yeah, Carney won, the Liberals won, Trump probably caused that. So Canada would have conservative prime minister if a new conservative prime minister if it wasn't for Trump. Oh, interesting. Like 100%, there's no debate about that. If Kamala won, the conservative Pierre would have won. I don't think there's anybody. Olivier would have won. I don't think there's anybody who would argue against that. Alrighty. So let's move on to something a bit local to me. So I live in Dallas, Texas, and I'm born and raised in Texas. I've lived in Austin. I've lived in Dallas. I've been all over the state. I have spent I'm 27 years old. Of my 27 years on this earth, I have spent 24 of them. 24 or 25 of them in Texas. I lived for like a year and a half or 2 years in St. Louis. So I've basically spent my entire life here, and obviously I care about it. Texas is, I'm not delusional. Texas is a pretty conservative state, but it's not the most hardcore conservative state. It's not as conservative as maybe like Mississippi or Alabama or something. Um, but it's becoming more purple. Almost had one of the Senate seats flipped to a Dem. Beto keeps running against Ted Cruz. He's only a couple percentage points off. I think it was 2020. It looked like there was a really good chance Beto could take him. Um, or maybe it was 2016. Uh, Texas does not have recreational or medical marijuana available. It very technically has a medical program, okay? But the medical program is a joke because it only allows for THC products up to like a 1%, so basically no THC. And the diseases and like the requirements necessary to get your medical card are like very extensive, more extensive than anybody would reasonably ever go through. So effectively, Texas doesn't have any legal, recreational, or medical program. Um, Weed is pretty prevalent here, potentially more prevalent than in other states where it's not illegal, because we're right on the border with Mexico. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. Um, Marijuana is more a part of Mexican culture. It's literally a Mexican word, Spanish word, marijuana. So like it's it doesn't seem weed is not that. It seems very appropriate. It would not. It would be. It's long overdue for weed to be legal, both medically and recreationally, but at least medically. Now, some of the cities in the state have decriminalized it. So I'm pretty sure Austin, Dallas, Houston, and maybe one or two other big cities have passed local city ordinances that say we're no longer going to enforce marijuana laws up to this small amount. So if you get caught with a couple grams of weed when a traffic stop, as long as you aren't actively smoking it or something, we're not going to waste police and government resources in trying to charge you for that. Um, and on top of that, the Texas has this thing called the Farm Bill, which created a loophole for CBD, Delta 9, Delta 8, all the sort of offshoot THC products that are like you can get in these smoke shops, um, that aren't quite as potent or quite as strong or they aren't the real thing, but they give you a little buzz or something. Um, the Farm Bill was passed, I think, in 2020 or something. It was passed, I think, like 5 or 10 years ago, something like that. Um, and it created this loophole, and now we have a pretty big market in here. I know multiple people personally that smoke those fake Delta 9, Delta 8 THCA carts that you can get at the bodega smoke shops. I know multiple people that have smoked this before. Even I have tried them before. But it looks like Texas wants to take that away, or at least Greg Abbott wants to take that away. Um, and it looks like, from what I've heard outside, that it looks like it's going to happen. But we'll see. So let's see what this article has to say. Will Texas kill a multi-billion-dollar industry? Texas lawmakers are considering proposals to kill a multi-billion-dollar industry as shockwaves roil the economy. The nationwide proliferation of intoxicating hemp products has spurred a booming industry in the state, but also sparked public health concerns and drawn the ire of Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. But like, we have to ban THC and shut all of these stores down, Patrick said during a recent press conference. This is a poison in our public. Would he be saying the same thing about alcohol? What would he say about Pete Whiskey Leaks Hegseth? Like, how, I don't understand these people that can be so hard line against weed and not have a problem with alcohol. How can he not be a prohibitionist? He should be a prohibitionist if he is for the, and like, I know the real answer why. It's because there is no logical, like, there's no way to be logically consistent and hold those two positions, right? Because that's not what they're interested in. They know what their constituency are. They know that their constituency are mostly old people who have been taught weed's bad. They've never smoked a weedle in their entire life, and they think it's a gateway drug. And statistics, reality, fact, be damned. All they are ideologues who just don't like weed and are inherently authoritarians and want to restrict people. They're more interested in making everybody around them conform to what they want than allowing people to express themselves and do what they want. They are inherently closed-minded in that sense, not open-minded. The state Senate overwhelmingly passed legislation last month that would ban practically all hemp products, but the outcome in the House is far from settled, with the industry mounting a lobbying blitz to derail the most punitive proposals. The fight isn't just confined to Texas. Intoxicating hemp products have spread across the country after the 2018 Farm Bill legalized cannabis with less than a 0.3% Delta 9 THC. While hemp flower with that little THC would not be intoxicating to consume, producers can easily make consumable products like edibles and beverages that will get users high but still meet the legal threshold. The market for intoxicating products has particularly taken hold in states without legal recreational marijuana. Yeah, lawmakers from Hawaii who would smoke this garbage trash Delta 9, Delta 8, you don't know how they made it or where they made it or if it's gonna fucking poison you or something. Nobody wants to smoke that shit. They want to smoke the real good shit, okay? Like, if they could, they would. Um, the market for intoxicating products has particularly taken hold in states without legal recreational marijuana. Lawmakers from Hawaii to Florida are considering proposals aimed at cracking down on the industry. Even legal weed states like California and Illinois have waded into the hazy politics of hemp crackdowns as marijuana businesses lobby lawmakers to protect their regulated markets. Why would California ever be looking at reducing their weed business? And Texas business owners warned lawmakers during a 17-hour House committee hearing Monday that passed either hemp bill lawmakers were considering. Whoa, this sentence is weird. In Texas, business owners warned lawmakers during a 17-hour House committee hearing Monday that passing either hemp bill lawmakers were considering would destroy small businesses in Texas. The industry saw $4 billion in sales last year, according to an analysis by Delta Emerald Ventures, and there are more than 8,000 hemp retailers registered with the state. Banning hemp products could result in tens of thousands of lost jobs and push Texas businesses out of state, entrepreneurs argued. Meanwhile, consumers would be able to continue buying intoxicating hemp products over the internet, they warned. Yo, can you buy this shit on the internet? Yeah, wait. It wouldn't make any fucking difference if you could just buy it on the internet. Pro hemp commentators made. I mean, it would. Most people get it in stores. I don't think most people would be willing to order it online. So I think it would definitely eliminate some. If their goal is to reduce the usage, it would technically probably do that. Hemp commentators made points designed to find a receptive audience with Texas's overwhelmingly Republican legislator, highlighting the state's business-friendly reputation and invoking God when talking about the cannabis plant. Many told stories with Maha themes, criticizing big pharma and touting natural remedies. Oh my God, bro. The Republican Party has gone full fucking insane. I'm a God-fearing, proud Texan, said Austin-based hemp entrepreneur Jenna Oliana during the hearing. This proposed hemp ban strikes at the very heart of what Texas was built on: liberty, independence, and the right to live free from government overreach. This is my biggest takeaway about all of this. Where are all of the small government people now, huh? The same small government people that are against the federal government. Oh, leave education out of the federal government. That's our purview. That think that Texas should be able to govern their own border. Anybody that was in favor of Texas on the whole border dispute with Greg Abbott and Joe Biden when he was putting up the barbed wire buoys in the fucking Rio Grande or whatever, and people were getting caught in them and dying, drowning, trying to cross. Anybody who was defending that should be very much against them doing this, because they're trying to supersede all of the cities. All of the cities the cities. I believe it was Austin voted over 85% to decriminalize weed. All right, they would legalize it straight if they could, at probably a similar 70+% rate. They have clearly shown that in their local small community, they want that. And that is the definition of small. That is the definition of small government. But they want to Greg Abbott and these conservatives want to use the big bad state government to oppress the local city, community, county governments. This is big government versus small government. The same people that are the same people that are captured by this big government, small government way of thinking, the same people that think in those kind of terms, should be against this. Even if you don't like weed, you should be against this. The Texas debate over intoxicating hemp products underlines how messy the issue has become for policymakers. The House committee considered two bills Monday. The Senate-passed bill introduced by GOP State Senator Charles Perry, who has characterized the hemp industry as evil and diabolical, would ban all intoxicating hemp cannabinoids while allowing hemp products that contain CBD and CBG. The other bill, sponsored by Republican State Representative Ken King, would also ban intoxicating cannabinoid products, with one exception: an allowance for hemp beverages with Delta-9 THC. Hemp beverages would be capped at 10 milligram THC per serving and regulated similarly to alcohol. His bill drew near universal opposition from industry foes for not going far enough, and from hemp entrepreneurs for going too far. In a testament to the importance of the market, representatives of hemp companies from across the country traveled to Austin this week to push back on the proposals. King's bill is a de facto ban, said Cynthia Cabrera, chief strategy officer at Texas hemp company Hometown Hero. It hands over a narrow sliver of the hemp-derived market to the established and politically well-connected alcohol industry, she said. It takes hemp away from all the people who have built the industry. That's actually a really good point. I wonder if there's some nefarious nonsense going on behind the scenes. Sort of in the same way that these Hometown Heroes, which I have friends who use Hometown Heroes specifically, they really like them. Oh crap, I lost where I was going with that. Oh, nefarious reasoning. I wonder if there's some nefarious reasoning going on here. If maybe the alcohol industry is in the exact same way that Hometown Heroes and some of these other companies are lobbying against this sort of bill. I wonder to what extent these alcohol companies and those that would seek to benefit from this going away are lobbying in the opposite direction. I wonder how much of that is going on. Family members of young adults who were diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychosis pushed for an outright ban, arguing that any legal consumer access to THC presents dire public health risks. They questioned the usefulness of age restrictions since their loved ones were over 21 years old when they purchased the hemp THC products. But that's an indictment on their mental health prior to the consumption of weed. They Psychiatrists and doctors know this is established medical fact that you smoking a regular mentally stable person smoking weed, it's not like there's like some remote chance that it's going to make you go psychotic, right? That's not how that works. You need to be predisposed to that. You need to already basically be on the fence of being psychotic, and then smoking weed will push you over. Okay, that's what it needs. This is an indictment on your loved one or whatever, that their mental health was not in the right place and that they were irresponsible, that they should have known that they were not able to consume this substance without there being a problem, and they did it anyways. And anybody, and like, I understand, it's probably, I have sympathy, I have empathy for anybody whose loved one, it was ostensibly a regular person, and then they took this substance and now they're a weirdo. Okay, I have sympathy for that. But anybody who would try and argue to me that, oh, my loved one was totally fine and that they smoked weed, and then it was all the weed. It was all the weed that did it. It couldn't have been the predisposition. It couldn't have been their mind before. It couldn't have been any of that. It was all the weed. I would just say you're just wrong. I don't care. You're letting your emotions blind your reasoning. During the hearing, lawmakers struggled to understand the complexities of cannabis products, as the proposed legislation would ban even non-intoxicating CBD-rich extracts. They heard confusing testimony from public commentators on the distinctions between natural, semi-synthetic, and synthetic compounds, and how to classify intoxicating cannabinoids like delta-8 THC and HHC. They sought suggestions for how to restrict. Oh gosh, my mouth is so dry and I have no liquids. Ooh, let's see if I can push through. They they sought suggestions for how to restrict THC dosages, as their effects can vary widely for different people. Susan Hayes, a cannabis attorney who was neutral on King's bill, told the story of a 13-year-old girl with such severe Tourette syndrome that she couldn't leave her home for 2 years. Her parents gave her illegal cannabis oil. It took 25 milligrams THC a day to effectively treat her condition. That dose did not make her high, Hayes explained, but 25 milligrams would put me in bed for a week. Many in the industry support putting guardrails around the freewheeling market, which currently has no age restrictions on purchases or testing requirements. They're pushing for legislation that would require consumers to be 21 and over, mandate third-party lab testing, and impose packaging and labeling requirements. They also highlighted enforcement issues, with many store owners testifying that they had never been inspected by state regulators, while one retailer testified that his store had been inspected 4 times. The biggest frustration that we have is the lack of regulation, said Rebecca O'Neill, a nurse and owner of Hummingbird Hemp in early Texas. The Department of State and Health Services has never come out to do an on-site regulation visit. Republican State Representative Briscoe Cain introduced 2 bills that include much of what hemp industry advocates are asking for on age restrictions, lab testing requirements, and other regulations designed to protect public health. Neither bill has been scheduled for a hearing, but industry advocates hope to incorporate some of their ideas into King's bill. Bills face uncertain fate. Lawmakers across the country have been struggling to address the public health risks of the burgeoning market for intoxicating hemp products without crushing entrepreneurs who thought they were acting illegally. Lawmakers across the country have been struggling to address the public health risk. What are the public health risks? This article is so weird. Who wrote this article? What are the public health risks? You can't just vaguely allude to public health risks and not talk about exactly what those are. Like, that means nothing. Illinois, I'm not saying smoking is healthy or the consumption of these products is necessarily good for you. I'm not even saying that it's not bad for you, but that how could you possibly address the public health risks? I don't know what that means. To me, that's a loaded statement. You're implying gateway drug, you're implying diseases, you're implying poverty. You're trying to evoke the same sort of stuff that happens when people take meth, and it's not. Illinois, Missouri, Florida, and Georgia have all considered bills this year to clamp down on intoxicating hemp, but many efforts have been derailed by bipartisan opposition. A bill in Missouri similar to King's was stalled this week after a 7-hour filibuster. It's far from clear where the debate will end up in Texas. Patrick isn't backing down, casting doubt on the legitimacy of his critics. These are not small business people, Patrick said on the Senate floor. Suddenly, in 2 years, 8,000 people have decided to open a smoke shop. This is all connected. Bro, this guy is probably like fail upwards, right? This Patrick guy sounds like a freaking idiot. It sounds like he's not. You have a legitimate. There are ways that you can have a legitimate reasoning against legalization of weed and potentially reason your way into a ban, right? Talk about its connection to poverty, or its connection to crime statistics, or its connection to other drugs. Um, my understanding is that there isn't much connection there, but you could at least try and present one of those reasons as your reasoning. But they're not even trying to do that. They're just like really, really lazily. That's what's so frustrating. It's so lazy. They're just so lazily just being like, oh, it's you. They're just sort of the lazy conspiracy theory. Like, do you really think? Can you really think 8,000 people open a smoke shop? You see a new business open, do you really think people did this, right? Like, the lieutenant governor even threatened a special session if the House doesn't pass a bill to ban intoxicating hemp. But it's unclear. Wait, the lieutenant governor even threatened a special session if the House doesn't pass a bill to ban intoxicating hemp. I'm pretty sure a special session just means that the senators and all the representatives have to come back into, like, they call off the session, the legislative session ends, and they go home for a few months. All right. I think this idea is that they're going to force them. They're going to say you can't go home. You have to come here, and we're going to make you sit here in Congress and sit here in your hotel rooms until we get this passed or we don't get it passed. I feel like that's what it sounds like which is just baby shit. If you had good reasoning, if you had the evidence on your side, present that, and you would get enough, I bet you would get enough of these people to support you. But no, that's just not where they're coming from. But it's unclear whether Governor Greg Abbott has the appetite to crush the burgeoning industry. Only Abbott has the power to call a special session, but Patrick could block other legislation in the Senate to force an overtime session, a tactic he used in 2017. Abbott's office did not respond to requests for comment. In a recent interview with Fox affiliate KRIV, the governor didn't directly weigh in on the proposed ban. That very question is being debated in both chambers as we speak, Abbott said. There is a difference between the House and Senate that I think will get worked out before the end of the session. Meanwhile, the House State Affairs Committee is scheduled to hear a bill Monday to expand the state's medical cannabis program, which could impact behind-the-scenes negotiations over hemp regulations. Democratic State Senator Sarah Eckhardt, who introduced an amendment to Perry's bill on the Senate floor, warned that banning intoxicating cannabinoids will kill the industry. Her amendment would have gotten rid of the ban but kept portions of the bill relating to increased hemp regulations. It was voted down 24-4. The Republican majority in the Senate is going to stay very hysterical on this point, she said. I think the two chambers will lock up. Probably nothing will pass. Yeah, that's honestly what will probably happen. You have a bunch I love the word hysterical here. It's such a good way to describe the lack of reasoning or sense that is being used in this. Yeah, but that seems like I think the Republicans know. Look, it took a lot of these Republicans to even get this passed in the first place, right? They know that if they destroy this, it would be bad for the economy. A lot of people would lose their jobs. A lot of people would, it's just not great for the economy, especially with a potential recession upcoming. So I think even the ones that are outspoken against the industry are probably actually in favor of maintaining it. They just want to pretend like they're against it. It's sort of like the abortion thing, right? The Republicans need to maintain the abortion issue to some degree because it's one of their major issues. If they put in a national abortion ban, they'd have almost nothing. What do they have left to run on? That's one of like their three main pillars they run on. So like it's also they have no incentive. It's sort of like immigration, right? They don't want to completely fix the immigration situation. They run on that. They want to maintain that. They would rather maintain that as an issue for the next 100 years and just keep running on it than ever actually fix it. It's exactly the same thing here. I think they realize that the negative effects of eliminating it would be far outweigh, or the yeah, the optics are bad, the result is bad, but that they have to like capitulate. They have to throw some red meat to their base a little bit. So they're gonna, be hysterical on this. But yeah, I think this is a good analysis that probably nothing will pass, that the two chambers will very conveniently sort of lock up on this issue and nothing will happen. All right, let's read this one more article talking about this. Hopefully it has some more information. Texas hemp farmers fear full THC ban would nip industry in the bud. Andrew Hill, who studied and farmed hemp in California before it was legal in Texas, was a keynote speaker at the state's first ever agricultural hemp expo in Dallas in 2019. Amid considerable hype and excitement that followed the recent federal legalization of hemp, Hill tried to warn farmers that the industry wasn't as profitable as state officials and seed vendors were pitching. These were guys running around telling farmers they could make $2,500 to $3,000 an acre on hemp. Being an actual farmer, not trying to sell seeds or clones, I couldn't help but burst out laughing, Hill said. Everyone looked at me and asked what was so funny, and they gave me the mic and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you right now, I haven't seen over 1,000 an acre since 2015. Still, Texas lawmakers embraced the opportunity hemp presented in 2019, legalizing hemp products of the cannabis plant with less than 0.3% THC, the psychoactive component in marijuana. Hill's Texas Star Hemp Farms was among those to make the investment necessary to profit from hemp, including owning almost all of the means of production and sales and spending millions on seed licenses and facilities. 6 years after the initial rush, industrial hemp farming in Texas stands on the brink. Senate Bill 3, which would ban any consumable hemp products that contain even trace amounts of THC, could destroy what farmers like Hill have built. Now considering things like hemp hearts, hemp seed oils, salad dressings, and those health products that don't have any cannabinoids in them to get you high will still be illegal under this law, Hill said. Hill is one of about 450 licensed hemp producers in the Texas Industrial Hemp Program, at risk of losing a chunk of their livelihoods, as Texas lawmakers have prioritized banning THC or THC products. Farmers say there is no way they can produce hemp without traces of THC, even for non-consumable products like clothing or paper, meaning SB3 could deliver a death blow to the industry. Yeah, it would be impossible to get every single microgram of THC out of it. It would be literally impossible. The GOP-controlled legislature authorized the sale of consumable hemp a year after it was legalized nationwide to boost Texas agriculture by allowing the commercialization of hemp containing trace amounts of non-intoxicating delta-9 THC. What ensued was a proliferation of hemp products, such as gummies, beverages, vapes, and flower buds, sold at dispensaries and convenience stores across the state. Senator Charles Perry, a Lubbock Republican who carried the 2019 hemp legalization bill, says such uses exploit a legal loophole and put children in danger. How does having alcohol around not put children in danger, right? Are you a prohibitionist? You must be a prohibitionist. His SB3 attempts to correct this by penalizing violators who knowingly possess THC products with a misdemeanor that can carry up to a year in jail and 2 to 10 years in prison for manufacturing or selling them. The measure, which was approved by the Senate, also bars marketing and sales of consumable hemp to minors. Well, it was already illegal, and requires all legal products to be sold in tamper-evident and child-resistant packaging. I, th- I think some of this might be a good thing. I think I would be on board with some of this because it would probably make the transition over to a proper medical or recreational market easier. If we already have the packaging laws in place, we already have the testing facilities and laws in place, we already have all the framework for an industry. Seems like it would be easier to transition. So I think there are definitely some positives um, for some aspects of these proposed bills. Uh, Like SB3, House Bill 28 would ban synthetic THC in products like gummies and vapes. But the House's proposal focuses more on tightening regulatory loopholes, allowing hemp infused beverages and assigning the alcohol industry to regulate products, as well as limiting the consumption of such products to those 21 years or older and implementing advertising regulations. This regulatory structure will also maintain the federal restriction on THC of no more than 0.3%, as well as limiting the amount a person can buy in a single day to 10 milligrams, said Representative Ken King, our Canadian sponsor. Blah. If the House passes its proposal, the two chambers must reconcile their differences for the legislation to become law. The House hasn't taken up either of the hemp bills for a vote. In public hearings, lawmakers heard from parents whose children were sickened by products containing dangerous, unregulated forms of THC, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said he will move to force an overtime session of the legislature if lawmakers fail to pass the ban. Kids are getting poisoned today, Patrick told the Senate earlier this year. So are they getting poisoned by alcohol? So Patrick must be a prohibitionist, right? He must be introducing a bill to ban alcohol next week, right? I heard he's introducing it next week. A blow to farmers. Kyle Bingham describes himself as a niche big farmer. Over the past several years, his more than 2,000-acre farm has been primarily dedicated to cotton and grapes. 5% or less of its acreage has been dedicated to hemp. We've done everything from peanuts to sesame seeds to garbanzo beans and blue corn, so rotating hemp into our process was pretty natural, Bingham said. Bingham said his first hemp crop brought a reality check that curbed their early hype and enthusiasm. When we got interested in selling hemp biomass, it was about $3.50 a pound. We assumed the price would drop by the time we got to market to below $2 a pound, but in reality, it dropped to about 80 cents a pound. There was a massive oversupply issue, Bingham said. Texas was years too late for farmers to see profits from the initial hemp boom, and an oversaturated market with little profit has remained. The state projects SB3's financial impact would be a $19.3 million loss of general revenue related funds, less than 1% of the state's revenue over the biennium, including the annual loss of $450,000 for counties and $610,000 for transit authorities by 2027. The primary revenue loss will be due to the closure of THC businesses, leading to a decline in taxable sales revenues. Cities are projected to lose $2.1 million a year by 2030. We are urging the Texas House to carefully consider the consequences of SB 3 and HB 28 on the tens of thousands of small businesses, farmers, and consumers who rely on the hemp industry, said Cynthia Cabrera, president of the Texas Hemp Business Council and chief strategy officer at Hometown Hero. No state analysis addresses HB 28's or SB 3's financial potential hit to Texas farmers if they must abandon production under a total THC ban, as the Senate bill proposes. There is not a single fiber of hemp that meets this THC-free criteria, Hill said. Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller said the Texas Hemp Program had around 1,200 farmers interested in 2019. Of the roughly 450 licensed hemp producers today, 166 applied for a permit to grow hemp during the past 12 months. After his early enthusiastic support of hemp, calling it one of the most exciting new prospects for Texas farmers in a long time in an industry video, Miller now speaks with the benefit of hindsight. We planted too much and had way too much product and no place to market it, Miller said. Miller said the cratering hemp market in Texas is the reason why he believes the proposed ban on THC products will have little effect on farmers. Most of them have already given up anyway. Farmers are not interested. This is not a complicated issue, Miller said. Zach Gauger, director of sales for Caprock Family Farms, one of the largest hemp producers in the state, told lawmakers last week that despite the early struggles, the industry is now valued in the billions, putting it among the state's top commodities due to the investment of those who stuck around. The hemp industry is sitting just behind the cattle industry. Wow, that's surprising. And this bill will make it impossible to grow hemp as an alternative crop to be profitable. Gauger said, I have seen farmers all around our area show interest in growing this plant, but they are worried about failing a test or how to sell it or not having the facilities to send it to be processed. Gauger said, research has shown that after the Agalala aquifer, which the Great Plains of Texas relies on, runs dry in 20 to 25 years, the investment in hemp will be seen as a choice of survival for farmers. Parker said research has shown that. That sounds scary. Gauger said research has shown that after the Agala, I'll look into this after. Maybe this will be the very last thing we talk about today. Ah, damn it. I'll look into this after the article. Because that sounds kind of scary, and I've never heard of that. The time to diversify is now, Gauger said. Hemp extraction and consumption give us a way out of this cycle, not fiber. If fully unleashed, hemp is one of the more versatile crops for farmers. It can be used for industrial fibers and produced. If fully unleashed, hemp is one of the more versatile crops for farmers. It can be used for industrial fibers and produce CBD, which doesn't induce a high like THC but has been studied for possible therapeutic effects. The grain can also be used for animal feed and to make hemp seed oils, clothing, biodegradable plastics, and more. Successful hemp farmers, primarily small organic operations that grow hemp for CBD production, can make $500 to $800 an acre, leading to thousands in monthly revenue if they do quick harvests and sell to processors. Farmers like Hill, who control both the production and sales side of hemp byproducts, can make more than $10,000 a month. However, it can take years of reinvesting small profits into buying and cleaning processing equipment. However, it can take years of reinvesting small profits into buying the cleaning and processing equipment necessary to make the larger profits. The Texas hemp industry is just now starting to see some stability due to these efforts, but the state is now threatening all of this. If House Bill 28 passes, I won't be able to operate in Texas anymore. My business model and every product I sell will be made illegal overnight, and I won't move my operations to a state where this industry is treated with the regulatory respect it deserves. Callan Salganic, hemp manufacturer for Salganic Services Inc., told lawmakers in a House hearing earlier this month. And with that move, Texas loses jobs, tax revenue, and the economic ripple effects that come with local business activity. Some Texas lawmakers maintain that the ban on THC will only hurt the consumable hemp retail industry, but farmers say the plant naturally has THC that can't simply be removed, meaning this law could lead to the elimination of products that contain hemp seeds or oils that have been on the market for years. This whole debacle is a lack of understanding of organic chemistry, Hill said. For Texas farmers, industrial hemp is primarily an export crop. Texas lacks processing facilities for fiber or grain hemp products, and the rules already in place limit what they can do with the crop beyond CBD products. We could go into the animal feed market, but this hemp grain, it's very nutritious and great for chickens and cows, but there are no rules for it in Texas, so we can't touch the animal feed market, Bingham said. We were able to start making some progress on those rules recently, but until we have that, we are just kind of sitting here spinning our wheels. Hemp planting season is upon us, but farmers are hesitant to plant because SB 3 doesn't clearly state whether hemp already planted will be protected if the bill passes. Farmers could face felony charges in the fall for a crop that was legal in the spring. We're looking at an industry that, we hope, is recovering and could provide value to the state, both from an economic impact and also creating jobs. We'd like to see all that hard work pay off, and we're in a position where I'm not risking a felony for it. I'll walk away before risking a felony, Bingham said. Under SB 3, a person can commit a misdemeanor by purchasing or possessing a consumable hemp product not registered with the state of Texas. Growers who don't pay the $500 permit application fee and get approved to grow hemp could face a third-degree felony. Bingham said the bill won't address what lawmakers say is the central issue, stopping cannabis from getting into children's hands. Bad actors, he said, will still be able to find loopholes to continue doing what they do, and they'll keep keep going. It won't change anything. Instead, Bingham said the THC ban will nip the industry in the bud. It will kill everything. The grain industry, supplements, oil, will all be killed under this bill because people do not understand, including the politicians who wrote this bill, don't understand the chemistry of hemp. Harris did not respond to calls for an interview or emailed questions about the bill and protections for hemp farmers. Multiple mothers told lawmakers last week during the Committee on State Affairs that THC vape pens, which contain harmful chemicals in addition to hemp byproducts, are dangerous for young people. Chandel Strickland's son was diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychosis. He was an athlete on a full-ride scholarship and an engineering major. He looks nothing like this today, Strickland said. He is now a 22-year-old struggling with addiction to THC. He had to medically withdraw from school because he simply didn't have the cognitive ability to continue with school. I mean, yeah, if you're fucking smoking weed all day every day, it's pretty hard to do school. Like this homeboy is like sounds like he's just mad that his stone turned into bro. So many people have their stoner phase in their early 20s. All right, this is like a standard American archetype at this point. I feel like he's just pissed his son. It looks to me like he's pissed his son just became a stoner. All right, like you can't. That's not how that works, right? You know, your son still has like 60 or 80 years of his life ahead of him to do all kinds of stuff, right? Like this the way this dude talks about his own son is actually sickening. Farmers say the answer to ensuring the safety of hemp products is straightforward. Create regulations for hemp CBD products similar to what was done with vapes a few years ago. In Texas, an individual must be at least 21 years old to legally buy e-cigarettes or vape devices, and in 2023, lawmakers banned vape packages with images of fruit, juice, and cartoon characters. Bingham said THC is in the same boat. The lawmakers didn't regulate it, and now they're unhappy with how it's on the shelves. There weren't a lot of rules. They didn't put age limits on it. They didn't put rules about childproofing or child-resistant packaging, Bingham said. A large part of this industry has been asking for it, and we're not getting it. Texas should further regulate retail sales of hemp, Bingham said, instead of banning THC and eliminating all agricultural production. Do we want to give up everything we have built in hemp? I don't think. Do we want to give up everything we have built in hemp? I don't think that is the answer, he said. Yeah, so neither of these articles gave me a really great idea of how likely it is that these that weed gets or THC and all these weed derivatives get officially fully banned. Um, it seems to me I agree with the analysis of the first of the two articles that I think ultimately it's all just going to the House and the Senate are going to lock up against each other, and conveniently nothing's going to happen, and that all the people that were so vehemently against it conveniently won't be able to find any compromise on this. And you'd think if two two Republicans are on sort of like slightly different wavelengths about how much ban they want to implement for this. Like one wants 100% ban, one wants like a 50% ban. You'd think that they could come together and find some sort of 75% ban, right? I'm not saying I don't give bad people good ideas, right? I don't want them to do this. But I would imagine if they were legitimately interested in banning it, then it really wouldn't be hard to find this compromise. But they're not legitimately interested in banning it. They're interested in pretending like they want to ban it to virtue signal to their constituency, but in reality they know eliminating it would be problematic and they don't actually want to do that. Alrighty. Well, that's all she wrote, folks. It has been Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. I am Michael Winkler, and this has been the Mike Wink Show. Peace out, y'all.